Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm this dad's Platinum Journey, aka I'm going to be called Matt for this as well. Welcome to the channel. We are going to be talking about Horizon Forbidden West. We're going to take a nice big deep dive podcast into this, and I am joined by my ever-loving best friend. It's Peter Games. How you doing, Pete?
Hey, how you doing, mate? You all right?
I am doing brilliantly well, man. Thank you so much for joining us for this podcast style discussion, going through, I wanted to say like a platinum journey, but I haven't quite come up with a name yet. So we'll have to sort of maybe think of something a little bit later. We'll work it out. I don't want to call it the Platinum Journey podcast, just in case Adam wants to do one, but I want to try and think of something else. I don't know what
Guinness thrown at your window. It's fine.
I don't know what you think of the Platinum Trophy Chronicles. What do you think?
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that a lot.
We're going to go with that for now, and we'll see how it goes. But if you're new to the channel, guys, obviously feel free to add some comments. This is a pilot episode with me and Pete. We are going to be talking about Horizon Forbidden West. It's the next episode that I plan to do in terms of working through like my platinum journeys. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a little teaser as to what we're going to talk about. First of all, we're going to introduce ourselves. You may be new to the channel, maybe new to Pete as well. So we're going to spend a little bit of time telling you a little bit about us and what we do. We're going to ask the question, hey, is anything new? So we're going to talk about anything that we've been gaming, anything that we're excited about there. We're then going to talk about in depth about the podcast itself. We're going to go into a bit of the development, our thoughts as we're kind of going all the way to launch. We're going to talk about the game itself, its story, gameplay, all its mechanics there. And, oh, he's having a drink as well. What are you drinking, Pete?
Because I'm drinking Hobgoblin.
There we go.
Because it is delicious.
Top man. My Bournemouth is already down here. I've already spilt it once. I'm keeping it well.
Yeah, I wasn't going to mention that. I was going to let you off, but sure.
We're then going to go. So we're going to go into the meat of it. We're going to talk about the trophy list itself, and we're going to have a little bit of a trophy review and our own personal experiences, which is, of course, was the whole point of this podcast. We're going to talk about that as well. And then we're going to close things out here. So I need to close my door, actually, because I've just realized I left it open. But Pete, my man, we're going to start with some introductions, my man. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, as you can see, I have a debilitating need to purchase every game I ever see, because why not? Who needs money? I've been making videos on YouTube for, well, proper videos for about a year now. I think it was like January last year I properly got into it. Currently, I am working on an A to Z of Platinum Trophies. 2 letters in, and considering we're already halfway through February, that is not a good start.
I saw your one about Batman. That was really cool. I'm actually quite jealous of that one.
Thank you. Oh, mate, you should do it. You should do it. It's a great time.
When I've got a bit more free time.
But yeah, pretty much I'll just make videos out of whatever crosses my mind, and that's about it. Yeah.
Dear. If you're quite new to my channel, if you may know, I'm a dad of 3. And I also have a couple of jobs as well outside of that. So I like to play games on easy because my life is actually hard mode. So I never like to do anything that is actually too difficult. I think my hardest platinum trophy is probably about a 5 or a 6 out of 10. I don't really go too much out of that. At the moment, I sort of work through some live streaming, which is kind of what we're doing. But this is something new for the channel. We're doing some podcasts. Again, if you're familiar with the channel, you'd have seen the Platinum Journeys from about 6 months or so ago. I sort of stopped making it kind of around the time my 3rd child was born. It was sort of tied in there a little bit.
No coincidence at all.
There's no coincidence at all. But I do find a little bit of time for some live streaming. I've got content ideas that are here, but this is something that is a little bit special to me. I've always wanted to get into podcasting. This is a nice venture to kind of take a nice step forward. And I think in terms of, because do you know what? There's a lot of editing making those Platinum Journey videos. So much editing. And I feel like, do you know what? Let's just do a one-shot, Pete. Let's just make my life a little bit easier. Let's just talk about it and let's just kind of go into it.
No mistakes, no waffle. We're just going to power through.
Exactly. Hey, there will be no mistakes. I've already dropped my my alcohol on the floor. I've left the door open so the kids can probably hear me from down here.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
But
Oh dear.
otherwise, do subscribe to both of our channels. Anyway, if
Yes,
we do
please.
have some guests in the future, we will, which of course I do have planned for guests. I do have some people in mind. If there's anybody out there that you think would be suitable that would want to come onto the show, obviously feel free to drop into the comments who they are, or if yourself, we'll have a chat and see if we can get you onto a future podcast.
We'll hook you up.
Yeah. So, so what we're going to move on to next is I'm going to ask the grave old question, Pete. Are you ready for this?
No.
Anything new?
Absolutely not.
What have you been playing, Pete?
Okay, so I've got. Normally, I tend to do one thing at a time. Like that's how my brain works. I do one game, I finish it, and then we move on. At the minute, I've got like 6 that I can play through. I'm very close to platinums in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 and
is that the
Need
new
for Speed
one?
Unbound. Yeah. I've got one trophy left to get. One. And it's been like that since December. So.
Is it veteran mode or is that?
No, I did that. that was easy.
You've already done it.
Yeah, I think I did it. I did one playthrough. I did the veteran playthrough, and then that was it.
I'm guessing it's not as hard as the original.
Oh no.
Was it
No.
Mile High?
Yeah.
That's
Oh
the
no, there's
first
nothing
one,
like
isn't
that.
it?
There is a couple of missions in the game where you're meant to be sort of stealthy, so you don't have a gun. You just have like shivs and
Okay.
like distraction techniques.
Yeah, but that sounds cool though, doesn't it?
It is, but my god, it's stressful.
But you're not a Metal Gear Solid fan, are you?
No.
Exactly.
No. Yeah, like the one I've got left is there's a few co-op trophies you have to do for, I think they're called Spec Ops missions. Like you drop into a map, complete an objective, and then you have to get out.
They had that on the old Modern Warfare 2 for the PS3 because I remember doing those with a mate of mine many years ago. We did them. They're so much fun, like in co-op. You can do them solo, but like they're so impossible to do on your own.
Yeah, I'd never want to try and do these on my own.
You got to do them like for 3 stars. You have to do it like on veteran mode and things like that.
Yeah.
Do you get?
I don't think there's a difficulty thing for it. I think it's just you have to get 3 stars on each one, and then there's like collectibles in each one.
Oh, okay.
And then there's like one miscellaneous trophy, which is the one I need, which is for getting through one of the levels without raising the alarm once. And the annoying thing is, so I was doing it with someone from the Discord actually, and we did it. He got the trophy. My game froze, and I never got it. I was fuming. I was actually fuming. Like, yeah, I was just livid. So I've just not gone back to it since. I'm going to do it. I'm definitely going to do it soon. Hopefully soon. Anyway, clear that one up. Well, I'm also doing Need for Speed Unbound, which I absolutely love that game. I was going to do videos gushing about it because I'm a big Need for Speed fan, all that good stuff.
What's the list like?
The list isn't too bad. It's if you've done any of the like previous, I think it's Criterion that are doing them now or something like that.
They did Burnout, didn't they?
Yeah. I'm not sure if it was Criterion for the last few, but I think it is now. But the list is very similar.
EA,
so basically, finish the story, buy a bunch of cars. You have to 3-star all of the activities in the game, which can be a massive nightmare because some of these, like, you have to like get 3 stars on like drift challenges and stuff like that. There's a bunch of collectibles, which collectibles are bad enough. Trying to do them in a car is even worse because you can't just like 180 and walk that way. You have to literally reverse, and it's a whole thing. But all I've got left to do on that is the multiplayer, and all of the multiplayer trophies, bar one, can be like boosted very easily. So I'm hopefully going to do that soon.
Got to find someone else to play with, right?
Yeah, exactly. Basically, I have to find someone to let me win because it's not going to happen naturally, is it? No. The only thing I can really think of is something you're going to shout at me for because I've not played it since like the start of the year.
This
Crisis Core. Yeah. I'm on like chapter 5, I think.
Yeah.
I've been like slowly chipping away at it. Like in between other games, I'll play
Chapter
Crisis
5's
Core
good,
for a couple of
man.
days.
It's a good chapter.
Well, I love the game. Don't get me wrong. I'm really enjoying it. It's just I'm using it as like a stopgap in between things. So I'll play Crisis Core for like a few hours, and then I'll go back and play the game that I'm
it
working
does.
on or whatever.
It does lend itself to that because of the mission style system that it
Yeah.
has. There's so many missable trophies, man, and
Yes, I am aware.
even like some of the missions you have to do. If you start trying to clear those 300 missions and you haven't unlocked them all by the time you leave Midgar, like you're screwed.
Yeah.
You have to do the whole thing again.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would definitely say if you're going for the missions on this playthrough, make sure that you've got all the missables before you leave, because you can't get them otherwise. So just have a little bit of a look. There'll be if you look like online for like a list of missable missions, and just make sure that you've got those.
Well, that's one thing I've been doing. You were chastising me for this last time we spoke, but I have been following a guide of missable things in the game because I didn't want to do, because I knew there were so many missables, and I love the game, but I don't want to have to play through it like 6 times to do all of these things. Like,
you can generally just, because there's no chapter select, you can generally just make sure you've got a save before each chapter, and then a chapter, because there'll be a lot of chapter specific trophies. So you can always just pop back to the chapter to do that specific trophy. Because I had a lot of that where I'd gone through and then realised, like, oh, where were those trophies? And I was like, oh, it was in like chapter 7 or something like that. And it's like, okay, cool. Right, I'll go back to chapter 7, and then there's like these trophies like to do. So yeah, just make sure that you've got like some saves, and then you should be golden. Like, there's nothing massive like to come.
Well, that's the thing. I've been saving at the end of every chapter anyway. Like, it's a separate file, because I think there's only like 10 chapters or something.
Yeah, it's 10. It's not particularly long a game anyway. Like you can pretty much breeze through it. Like, if you're going to power through, and the new game plus will just kind of like allow you to power through anyway.
Fair.
If you had it, but yeah, like it's if you go for the missions and then you realize you've missed one and you go, oh,
no, that's not something I want to have to deal with. So no, I am going to use that guide through the entire thing.
Yeah, it's all worth it. No,
oh dear. Well, what about you? What have you been playing?
I'm gonna go sort of through from January, because we're kind of doing this sort of like, actually, to be fair, like to kind of pull the curtain back. It's Valentine's Day, everybody.
It is. So do you know what? I hadn't even twigged.
My wife twigged straight away. She was like,
I'm sure she did.
Recording on Tuesday. She's like, that's Valentine's Day. And I was like, well, got myself a good day, haven't I?
The best kind of day. Cheers.
But I've got I want to say, yeah, I've got 2 platinums this year so far. Or did I do 3? Wow. I've got to think about this myself now. I did God of War Ragnarok earlier on this year, and then I've just done WW2K22, which I've been working on for absolutely ages.
Yes, you did.
Yeah,
you have to tell me about that.
Ultra rare, man. Do you know what? Like, WWE games, like I used to play them like religiously every single year.
Yeah.
I'd buy the latest one, but then sort of by like 2014, I started buying them more sporadically.
Yeah.
And I hadn't bought it for a while because 2K20 was just such a disaster. It was a terrible game.
Wasn't that the one that had like the dreadful animations and everything was just horrendous?
It was terrible.
Yeah.
It was absolutely horrendous. Like, it was a game that should never have been released. It was broken. God. And they did sort of fix it, but it's not.
They sort of just left it to burn in the fire and carried on with a new one.
The developers had to scrap it. A load of people left over it. It was such a disaster that people just left like the company. They went elsewhere.
Jeez.
They had to redo the whole engine. They've redone the whole mechanics of the game. And 22 is really good. It plays more arcadey, so you have a basic like strike button, hard strike, and grapple button, reverse button. So it's kind of mapped on the like the face buttons.
Yeah,
and it's pretty easy to do. You have a basic like guard on the shoulder as well. It's pretty easy to work. Like, it's nice and simple to play with, so it feels very sort of arcadey. It's a really good feeling game. Like, I like this new system better than what the old system had, because it was trying to be a little bit too realistic with what they were doing.
Bit too simulation.
Yeah, it's a bit too sim. Yeah. So it was really good, really good return to form to them. And like, the My GM mode is so much fun. Like, it's a manager sim.
Okay.
You just have like, you kind of have a roster of wrestlers. You manage their morale. You kind of book them in feuds, and you have to like grow the feuds on television and then pay them off at a pay-per-view, and you get like star ratings, and you get sort of, you can get money to like upgrade like the arenas and the lighting and the pyrotechnics that you use. So you can kind of like build your shows up. It's very, very cool. It's so much fun. It's really cool.
That does sound like a hilarious time.
It's the best thing about it. Like seriously, like I have my nephew around and he'll play it with me. And like he just loves playing the game. I'm like, let's play my GM mode. And he's like, what? Do I not play the game? I said, no. Like, you just simulate the matches and you just see who wins. Because like that's not how you play it. It's like, yeah. It is.
It's like, wait, so they took the fun thing out of the game and made me do all the boring stuff. Exactly. What's this?
Exactly. But I managed to finish because there's a mode on there which is called my factions mode, which is kind of like an online like card deck builder type mode. I say it's online, it just requires a connection. It's not like you're playing against other people, but you have like decks and you have like cards and you kind of like play matches based on the deck that you've got sort of thing. And you can play sort of bonuses and perks and things to kind of put on your cards, and it's like that sort of thing. And anyway, that was like a hell of a grind. Like it's so long. Yeah. That's why it's an ultra rare plat, because people just like, I can't be arsed with that.
Yeah, just give up. Just like, nah.
I can't remember my watch time. I needed to have a look at it, but it's probably about 100, 110 hours maybe.
My days.
Yeah, it's a long old plat, and most of it is that mode. You're just...
That's the thing, isn't it? Like long platinums are all well and good, but when it's a long platinum because of one mode, like, oh no, like more power to you. Like I couldn't be dealing with that at all.
Yeah, that was recently, because I'm at 40. I'm at 47 now. I'm trying to think now, like I'm trying to think back into my thing. It'll probably come to me a little bit later, but I feel like I've got 3 platinums already this year. But I'm working on RE2 remake. I've actually just started. You'll like this. South Park.
Yes, which one?
The first one.
Stick of Truth.
Stick of Truth. Because I've done the Fractured Butthole. I did that a couple of years ago.
Yes, you did, didn't you? I thought you would.
Yeah, I did that.
Oh, Stick of Truth, so good.
Yeah, it feels. It quite clearly feels like the Fractured Butthole is quite clearly the sequel, because they kind of fine-tune a few things in there. It feels a little less janky on the newer one. That's what I'm noticing. I was like, it feels a little janky. It's almost like a charmy janky, if that makes sense, because it's South Park, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's meant to be daft. It's not meant to be well polished.
I feel like it's slightly more polished in the newer game. Like there's a lot more effects, and there's times when I'm playing it and there's nothing going on in my headset. It's just silence. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah.
Just that makes sense. There's no background noise. There'd be like, oh, I opened a drawer, or I opened this. It's like sometimes it's a bit quiet.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just like, okay.
Oh dear! I tell you what, with that game though, you do have to be. I don't know what it was like in Fractured Butthole, but you do have to be careful about missable things.
You do,
because
I've had a look at that.
Yeah, there's a lot of like outfits and things you have to get before you finish the game.
Yeah.
I've
already messed up this playthrough anyway, so I'm going to be doing another one anyway. Well, I noticed there's a trophy for like not having any of your teammates be fallen at the end of the battle, and I've already messed that up, so I'm going to do another playthrough anyway. So I've kind of like laid that to rest.
Well, at least it's like liberating, isn't it? Like I've already ruined it. I'm going to have to do it again anyway.
So I'm going to do what I can, and then I'll look at what I've got left, and then I'll just do another run with what I've got to do there. So yeah, it'd be fine. And of course, I'm working on Final Fantasy VII Remake on stream. So
of course,
so I have got a few on the go. I've re-downloaded Detroit as well, because I want to try and as well. But I'm kind of leaving that for now.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna do the other 2, because I need to get 2 more to get to 49, so I can make FF Remake my 50th, which is the plan.
Yeah.
Which is the plan.
Yeah. So that's why I was like rubbing my hands. I was like, we're getting close to Final Fantasy now, guys.
Yeah, I know, because I can't wait for the stuff. There's so much coming out this year.
I know, honestly.
You want to talk about what's new? I'm always excited about 16. I'm just excited about 16. I can't wait. It's June. Like it's so close.
It's so close. Like we're like what 4 months? Yeah. 4 months away.
I've just. This is why we've made notes, Pete. I've just read. It was Jedi Fallen Order was the other platinum I got.
Hey,
so
there you go.
I've got 3 this year so far. So I've got that.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've got them done. So there we go.
It's a good start to the year.
But yeah, that is pretty much everything for what's new then. So shall we dive into the development of our chosen game here, Horizon
I think so.
Forbidden West?
I think so.
Wonderful stuff. I will just try and like kind of retort some of this sort of bits and pieces, and that we'll kind of go through this and we'll talk about our thoughts a little bit here, Pete, because we obviously know that this is a spiritual successor like to Zero Dawn. So I think we both played that, didn't we?
Yeah,
yeah. And we platted as well, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah. It's not a difficult plat. I know. It's like,
it's not.
Well, you platted it then, didn't you?
I only got the platinum like 3 years after it came out because I just played the game and then stopped. So
I got it for free when Sony just gave it out like during the pandemic.
Oh yeah, they did, didn't they?
They gave it out for free. They did that, and they did Ratchet and Clank as well. And I was like, what great additions. And I was like, thank you very much. I will take that. I will
take all of this. Thank you.
Yeah. How did you find Zero Dawn?
I loved it. Honestly, I couldn't get enough. I could not get enough of that game.
It had a really great balance, I found, of like, I wanted to explore. Like, they had interesting things to go and do. And at the same time, like, it was just nice kind of going through the story, and the side missions were just good pacing throughout. I thought it was like a nice, smooth experience.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it just speaks to the inner child in me that I want to just shoot a big dinosaur with a like bow and arrow. That's the main thing for me. I mean, I could think of it on some higher level, but I'm just a child, really.
The first time, because I wondered, like, you have that sort of, not like the opening area, but when it kind of goes over to the east, you kind of have that large area. And then when you make it through those gates, I immediately ran into like one of those birds. Was it the Thunderbird? Not Thunderbird, sorry. What's the
Storm? Is it Stormbird?
Is it Stormbird? Stormbird, right?
The massive one.
The massive one.
Yeah.
The Stormbird. Thunderbird. The Stormbird. Literally, I went through those gates and I heard something and I just instantly died. And I was like, what was that? And I then respawn and I look up and I see the thing like hovering around, and I just pegged it. I just saw the gold mark and I was like, I'm just running. I'm just running.
It's like, you're not there, leave me alone, go away.
I was just like, the ambush that it just descended upon me. But that was the beauty of that game. I think I got ambushed again by like Snapmaws. I feel like I turned a corner. There's about 5 of them, like all kind of like there. And then they all started like firing stuff at me. And I was like, oh God. But like, you can so easily run into trouble in that game. Like, you wander into a little bit of territory and you're like, all right, I'm dead. Thunderjaws were easy because they were quite big and you noticed where they were.
Oh yeah, well that's one thing I was going to say. Like, in a similar thing to you, when you walk into that area for the first time, you're sort of looking out over like the deserty kind of bit.
You can like, oh, that's where they are. You can stay away from that for now.
But you can literally just see one Thunderjaw just like stood in the middle of this open area, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to fight you. I'm not looking forward to it.
But obviously, it came in sort of 2017, right around, unfortunately, around a launch of another big title.
Yeah, it is.
We'll come to that in a second, because we'll refer back to it, because bless it, like it came up against Zelda, didn't it?
Yeah, it was Breath of the Wild.
Was there anything else? Or was it just that one game?
I'm pretty sure it was just Breath of the Wild.
That was the main one, wasn't it?
Like, obliterated it.
Ironically, it ended up being Game of the Year, didn't it, Breath of the Wild?
Yes, it did. Which is significant. We'll get to why in a minute.
We'll get to why. So development actually started the previous year, the following year. So following the success of that, 2018. And you can tell that they kept a lot of the assets and things like over to the other side, and they kept the game engine. So they pretty much just updated a lot of the things on there. So we'll talk about when this game was first shown, because it was during the June showcase, where we had the reveal of the PlayStation 5. So it was the actual reveal of the console itself. And this game main evented that showcase. Now, did you watch that?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Of course we did.
In fact,
of course we did.
I'm pretty sure Forbidden West closed the showcase.
It did. It was
obviously the console came after that, but Horizon was the last game.
That was it mid? That was midway through, wasn't it? Didn't Horizon?
I thought it was the end.
Was it the end?
I could have sworn it was the end.
Maybe I'm misremembering whenabouts it was. So I wondered if it was that, and then they closed with the showcase of games at the end, and then they closed it with Horizon. But I know that they ended the game section with Horizon, because I wrote it down in my notes here, because it was just one of their largest like live streams ever. Like, I feel like it's it's in the millions of views. But it's one of those things where, like, you could honestly tell that this game was going to be one of their biggest, ideally, launch titles, or at least launch year titles.
Close enough.
Yeah. What were your first impressions?
I was all in. I was all here for it. Like, the second I saw Aloy riding across the beach, I was like, "This is it. This is me, boys. Let's go!" Like, it was just more of the world. That's what I wanted.
I was sold too. Like, as soon as I saw that, because I was literally kind of off the back of just finishing Zero Dawn and just loving that first game, and recency was sort of still there for me, where I just finished it, and here we go with the sequel, and I was like, okay, this is probably one of the big games that I'm probably going to get with the PlayStation as soon as that kind of like releases itself.
Yeah.
The other thing that we saw as well, I'll sort of touch on here before we kind of get towards it, was the big sort of 15-minute demo, which was basically like the following year. It's about June of 21.
Was it? Or was it? I'm losing track of all of this, me.
I'm making my notes. I'm making my notes here. You might have to blame Wikipedia for this, because I was trying to have a look at when this was.
We'll never blame Wikipedia. They'll come for us. We can't do that.
Anyway, we had a 15-minute sort of demonstration of this game being played off. I want to say kind of like Q2, right, of 2021.
Right.
Yeah. We'll say that just to kind of cover our bases.
Safe bet.
Yeah, I've got June anyway. But you watched that as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was literally everything about this game. I was there immediately watching, and I really enjoyed it, because that was the one where it got like full on gameplay, wasn't it?
Full gameplay, which ironically isn't in the game.
I know. I was going to touch on that. Is that that entire segment just doesn't happen in the game? It was engineered for this little.
I'll mention it now, because I was waiting for that to happen. I'll be honest with you. I was like, when is this happening? Like, when are we going to get this scene? But it never happens. It was just obviously just made for demonstration purposes. So
well, I mean, it could have been something that they later cut. Like, you don't know, they might have cut a quest out or something.
I'm wondering if it's going to be to do with the DLC.
Maybe,
because they've made that sequence, they've made those assets, right? So I'm wondering if it's going to be, because it's Burning Shores, isn't it?
Yeah.
So maybe it's going to be something to do with that. But because it was Herman Holst that stated that the game was going to be out round about the late 2021. So he made a statement saying this game was going to be out at that sort of time.
Yeah.
But it was delayed.
Of course it was.
Well, this is the thing, I think. We're kind of seeing the aftermath of what was happening like in 2020, you know.
Yeah, we definitely are.
It depending on what stage of development games were in, and this game would have been in that full-on development stage of we're making the game. So they would have been all in their studios and told to go home. So that whole process of reorganizing that setup of being in the offices to them working remotely would have been, you know, that's a delay, which is kind of what they've experienced. That was kind of obviously the reason what was kind of given, which is kind of understandable. A lot of places were having the same thing.
Yeah, and I think we're still in the tail end of that now. Yeah. Like, a lot of games still getting pushed back.
Yeah. Depending on the size of them, definitely. You know, God of War would have had it. You know, a lot of places would have had them. I think God of War was just well hidden because it just hadn't anything announced yet. So,
well, yeah, that does help.
But I would have imagined that game probably, if 2020 hadn't have happened the way that it did, I would have imagined that we would have had a lot of these games a little bit earlier than we have. But there we go. So it did kind of jump outside of that launch year window. And this game did come out in the 18th of February. So were you a day one purchase?
Yes. I was a day one purchase 3 times.
You were, weren't you?
Yeah, because I was if you haven't noticed,
it's
I have
there.
the statue behind me. Right. So I bought the collector's edition I bought a physical copy of the game, which is still sealed on my shelf up there because I don't need it. And because I was panicking that they weren't going to turn up on time, I also bought it digitally.
You got it digitally as well.
Yeah, so
That's where I've got it. Mine is a
yeah,
digital copy like on my PlayStation. I was a day one. I streamed it day one as well. So I think you joined me, didn't you, to kind of check out the game for the first time. So I streamed it day one, and if you want to check out, I believe it's still on the channel. So if you want to check out my playthrough, it is there.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you can kind of check out all the highs and lows of that.
Top tier content, guys. Go and watch it now.
It's just me and you just like hanging out.
Yeah,
like
it is pretty much.
We had a few people joining us, like coming on there.
I think a lot of people were worried about spoilers and things, weren't they? So
it's always the way, isn't it? Like I stream like new games. 'Cause I did God of War when that came out, and I did a God of War stream, and it's kind of like one of my lowest performing streams that I've done.
Yeah,
which is weird because it's such a huge game.
I think that's part of the detriment, though, isn't it? It's a huge game. Everyone on the dog is going to stream God of War day one. So, but sometimes that's the fight you've got to do.
But I did Crisis Core before launch because I managed to get an early copy, and that was my highest performing stream that I've done. So it's weird how the numbers kind of come around to that. It's
shows the importance of like release date and embargo, sort of being able to put out content before release.
Beforehand,
yeah.
But when it came out, it had a bit of a tetchy start because of what else was being released at the time. Elden Ring, which then later became that year's Game of the Year, was also released in February.
You couldn't write it, could you? You just couldn't write it.
No.
I feel so sorry for them. I mean, I don't. They're probably fine, but like,
I should mention obviously the people that made this Guerrilla, like, they were making the Killzone titles like beforehand, and this to me is kind of what they should be making. It's like the Horizon series. Not that I don't, because I love the Killzone series. I've played pretty much all of them. The only one I haven't really played is the one on the PS4. But I absolutely love the original Killzone. I adore that game. I played so much Killzone against like my mates. We would have like bots, and we would have like 2v like the bots and that, and we'd set up like little matches and stuff like to play, and it was so much fun. But this is definitely the game that they should be making. Like, this is such a 100% title, and it's such a shame that it does get a little bit overshadowed on their launches. They need to because this is quite clearly going to be a trilogy. So
yeah, 100%.
we will hopefully they'll get a better launch window that they can kind of cap this off, hopefully.
Or someone will start taking bets on what game releases after Horizon 3 being Game of the Year.
Exactly. We'll be looking at what else is there.
Yeah.
There was so much.
It'll be like Mario or something. Like,
because you got Ghostwire as well. That came out at the same sort of time. You had GT7, which was out. God, and was it Back for Blood as well that came out as well? That was kind of...
Did that come out at the same time?
I'm pretty sure that came out just before it. So it was like 4 or 5 like pretty big titles that kind of came out kind of all...
Yeah.
That February was notoriously like huge.
Oh yeah, it was ridiculous. I know. Because I remember, because I think, did Ghostwire come out before it or after?
No, I think Ghostwire was slightly afterwards. I feel like you bought it in Platinum Debt, but I feel like you'd already had like Horizon beforehand, and it came out just afterwards.
I knew that I'd already done Horizon before I finished Ghostwire, but I just couldn't remember if I'd already started it and then stopped Horizon or not. But
I'm fairly certain Ghostwire was like sort of early March, like it was in that but it was in that sort of like window of like when it was things were getting released. Just to kind of go through its reception on there, because on Metacritic, it got 88 on PS5 and 83 on PS4. Do you think the scores were quite fair on the game?
I'd say so. I mean, obviously, we're going to get into our own thoughts about the game in a short while. I'd say purely from like technical standpoint alone, like the game is incredible to look at. So I'd say probably about right for the scores. Maybe a smidge high, but that might be controversial. We'll get there.
We'll get there. I honestly, like, looking at it, like, you know, in terms of like an average, in terms of how people's general reception is, I think it's probably about what you would expect a game like this to kind of come out at. one of PlayStation's premier titles. It's obviously performing a lot better on the PS5, so obviously we'll get to why in a little bit. Did you play it on the PS4 at all, or just play it on the PS5?
No, I jumped straight in on the PS5.
I haven't had the opportunity to kind of like jump in on the PS4, but it's obviously going to run a little bit slower in terms of the frame rating and like quality. So you could probably see that might be more of a hindrance in terms of some of the features that it plays out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I keep saying this. I can't live without the load times on PS5 anymore. Like, I don't think I could manage. I'd just get too impatient and I'd turn it off.
I know. I start playing some PS4 titles and they haven't obviously patched it for the PS5.
Yeah.
The load times, obviously the load time is done, but the screen has its set timer and then it changes. So they still go slowly. It's just silly. But yeah. We'll move on to because obviously covering that now. Let's move on to our full game review here. We'll start out with story. Well, obviously the caveat here is we are about a year from the launch of the game, so I don't want to do too many spoilers. So no massive story beats, endings, that sort of stuff. So we'll try and keep things as general as possible. So if anybody is watching and worried about that, we will do our best to try and keep the spoilers out of our filthy mouths while we're doing this.
I'll just fill it with beer instead, it's fine.
Exactly. We'll just fill them up with beer. Just that, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
You know that bit where that, yeah. Okay. Right. Okay, Pete, I am going to come to you in terms of the story. What did you make of it?
Okay. I really enjoyed it. I did. I thought what they did with Aloy as a character in particular for me was really, really good. I thought she had a really nice sort of growth throughout the story. Obviously, she starts off very isolated. No one's knows what is going on but me. But like, obviously, she gets more open and she starts inviting people to join her and sort of building this. Well, I want to say family more than anything else. Which is obviously something she hasn't had in a long time. However, I do think this game suffered from that sort of middle of the trilogy thing. I think a lot of the beats they made in this game were not to service this game, but rather to service a game that's going to come out in the future. And that sort of thing rubbed me up the wrong way, shall we say. I wasn't... So, some of the things they went with just didn't click with me in the long run, I don't think.
No, I can see that.
Yeah. I'd say obviously the characters and everything were fantastic, and obviously we'll speak more about those as well in the future, but the way they brought the characters in and the stories they did around those side characters in particular were phenomenal, in my opinion. Katalo will always be my boy, and I won't hear anything else about it.
Mate, he's mine as well. We'll get on to that in a second. Like, he's by far probably him and Val, like, are just like they're my boys. Like,
I'd maybe put Erend above Val for me. That's just me.
I mean, yeah.
I just love the big lumbering guy who constantly drunk. It's just great.
Sad sack, isn't he? Like, but he's
exactly.
You know, but like, yeah, you just want to give him a hug, don't you? Like,
you do, don't you?
Mate, come here with your huge hammer. Just sitting there like he's playing like the game, isn't he? Like he's playing.
Oh God, yeah, that. I can't remember what that game is called.
Or whatever it is. Man, I just did the two games for the trophy, and I sacked that off. I was like, mate, I ain't sitting there playing this. I ain't got time to be sitting there playing a board game.
So yeah, like when you're first learning how to do it, I'm like, you know what, this is actually really cool. I might actually play this. I never did it again.
I don't know.
Oh.
I've got to agree with you. Like, I can definitely see where you're coming from with the whole like middle of the trilogy type thing, because the way that I looked at the story here, because I kind of played this like on the stream, and most of the time on the stream I was going through the main quest line. I kind of left a lot of the side stuff kind of till like after it was all done. So I kind of plowed through the story mainly. And other than a few story beats that kind of shock you, as you play it. There's a few moments that are like, ooh.
Oh yeah.
But the main story arc, like, it didn't click really. The whole thing just didn't really. I didn't really buy into it. The story carrying on from like Zero Dawn, like it starts off like really red hot in terms of like, okay, like, all right, off we go.
Yeah.
And then I just didn't like what we were doing. Just didn't like it. But like you say, like the side characters, like, and I found like the world, the story of the world, really intriguing. Like I liked going 100%. To a settlement and talking to people, getting some missions, and you kind of help them out, and you see the effects of what Aloy does to those people. You know, the sort of the missions that you do kind of have an actual cause and effect. If that makes sense, right?
You see the real-time implications of what she's actually doing.
Yeah, I liked that aspect of Aloy's character in terms of helping people and building this world and making it more a livable place and helping everybody that she could. Like you say, particularly like Katalo, like, you know, getting his arm back and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Those sorts of missions were they were top tier for me. I loved that. You know, the other characters as well, like all of them made just like side like stuff that they were going on with, like with Zoe and Ava and everyone else. They were really, really solid. But yeah, it was just the whole thing. And again, I'm not going to dive into like the ending, but
no,
I didn't really like it. I was like, okay, sure. Basically, I was just like, sure, okay, let's just. Well, I am a wait and see kind of guy. You know, I've played Final Fantasy VII Remake. I'm a wait and see kind of guy, right?
Yeah.
Because, you know, the ending of that, again, we'll go over that in another podcast. But like, again, you kind of go, we'll see where this goes, right?
Yeah.
I'm prepared to carry on with this story, and it's not detracted me away from playing anything more. But I was left a little bit like, okay. But because I left all the side stuff to do afterwards, I actually really enjoyed the post game because I was just that was done, so I could just go and enjoy myself like in this incredible world. And some of the locations as well, Pete, like, you know, Las Vegas, like, man, that's so cool.
Mate, like, Las Vegas was just, oh my god, like, I couldn't believe it.
When I went to like San Francisco, like, I've been to San Francisco, and like, man, oh man, like that whole area was just incredible. My favorite place to go to was like San Francisco, which is going right the way over, you know, having a lot of it underwater, exploring a lot of that area, like climbing up on these, you know, buildings that have kind of been overgrown, and it was just incredible. Like, it was so great to see. But that to me, it is fantastic. That to me was kind of like, I'd like to say, a game of two halves, really. You had your main quest line, which is meh, and then you had your side stuff, which was probably, for me, top tier side questing. You don't get
absolutely.
And I haven't played much Witcher, and I hear that that's pretty good for side questing. I would argue this game has really good side questing from my standpoint.
Yeah, I'd absolutely agree with that. And I mean, I may be slightly more warm on the main story as you are. The one thing that got me is a lot of the sort of more tribal things, and the way that whole thing ends felt very flat, in my opinion. I think I was more hyped about the main story ending than sort of that subplot of the game. Especially considering how well they hyped it up, and like, oh my god, there's this new tribe. Like, oh my god, you're gonna go and defeat and it just sort of.
It didn't really pay much into the story at all.
No, it didn't.
You had that first bit, and it's kind of like, okay, they're kind of secluded to these camps.
Yeah.
And then you have there's a story beat where, like, obviously they're there. Again, not going to go into spoilers or story reasons, but they do show up at some point, but that's kind of it.
Yeah, they just sort of.
They don't really play into it much at all.
No.
Like you say, like they kind of get hyped up at the start as this unstoppable force.
Exactly, and then it's just sort of That's it.
Yeah.
Done. Job's a good one.
Side banter, and
it's like, sorry, something real is happening now, so you can go away.
Yeah. I've got to save the world.
Yeah, exactly. Oh dear. Yeah, that just sort of felt, especially after the first game. Obviously, the first game, the whole tribal thing, like tribe against tribe, was fantastic.
It really worked. It
yeah,
really
exactly.
worked. You really felt like these different tribes like had real beef around each other, but like I don't think they got it quite right. I don't know if it's because this one was sort of too open, if that makes sense. Whereas
it was a bit too spread
Zero
out.
Dawn, you could really feel them kind of almost encroaching on each other a little bit more. The tension was a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
Whereas on this one, they're kind of very spread out.
Oh yeah.
It's like, I want to go up into the mountains like to see this lot. And it's like, well, mate, they're not a bother to you. What?
Yeah.
All the way over there.
Just in their lives. But
like,
hey, well.
I get that.
Yeah.
But shall we move on?
We shall.
Let's talk about some gameplay. I'm gonna sort of jump straight in with a little bit of my general sort of like thoughts on this one, because most of the gameplay was generally sort of the same as Zero Dawn. You kind of have a few tweaks here and there, and I liked a lot of the new additions. Climbing still feels a little janky. It doesn't feel quite right still. It's a little bit of a...
Yeah.
It's okay.
I'll give you that.
It's okay, but it does feel a little janky when you're trying to climb somewhere. Like, I remember a point on my stream, I was trying to get somewhere, and could I find my way up there? No, I could not.
No, not even a little bit.
But I generally liked the fact that you could really customize Aloy a lot better. You could really kind of hone in how you wanted her equipment to be. What we had that a little bit in Zero Dawn, where you could kind of put the like the coils and that into the armor and things.
Yeah,
I felt like there was more upgrading that you could do. There was more things that you could kind of customize. It felt a little bit more along the lines, it's very RPG in terms of like the skills tree. You could give her more abilities in certain areas to make her a little bit more the way that you want to play.
Yeah, exactly.
So I quite like that element of it. That doesn't confuse me too much. It's not like God of War levels of complexity as to what sword hilt do I put on here. It was manageable for me to be able to go through. So I quite like the systems that were in place there, and I felt like they did enough to kind of put me into the game as like, okay, cool, I could kind of like see how I want to do this, because I'm a very stealthy guy. I was like, cool, I'm a stealthy player, let's just upgrade the stealth stuff and make me really stealthy so I can kind of like take machines out and not really engage in combat too much, which is kind of what I like to do, right? I don't
just sort of hide away in the tall grass and just,
and then if all else, just melee them to death, right?
Can't really go wrong with that.
Segueing into melee, I didn't quite like the additions to it. The combinations were too tricky to kind of think about in the heat of battle. I'm just smashing, smashing buttons, and the whole like like attack, pause, strong attack, back again. It was just a bit.
Yeah, it's I can see what you mean. You get yourself a drink. But
no,
I mean,
it's like dry.
It just needs more bonus. That's all it is.
But yeah, I would like honestly just like forget a lot of that stuff when it came.
Yeah, I can certainly sympathise with that. Like, I'm the same in everything.
I'll get to it in a little bit, but I felt like the actual combat was actually pretty smooth. Her dodging's a bit broken because you can't really dodge out the way.
Oh, all I can think about is you in that stream.
Mate, she was just dodging and just getting hit. And then she'd lay there and you're like, Aloy, get up. Aloy, get up. Aloy, get up.
Please tell me that is still on the channel, because
it's still on the channel.
I need to see it again.
I can't remember what episode it is. I'm not going to tell you whereabouts it is because it's at a particular story arc. Right?
Yeah.
It's a particularly big story arc. It's that fight. We're in that sort of cave area, and man, like she just kept on getting in the way. So I felt like I don't know. Maybe I'm just playing the game wrong, but I found it really frustrating to try and dodge out of the way of things. I was just like, oh, may as well just get hit.
I was in pieces.
May as well just get hit. Made no difference whatsoever. But again, I liked the customization of your loadout. There was more spaces to put things because I feel like in the first game it was only 4. Was there only 4? Or was there more than that? Could you have more?
You're testing my memory here.
I'm testing my memory now because I feel like there were less slots. I feel like there was more space on this one to kind of have more weapons available, but I don't know. But there was more available. You could get different weapons as well. There's much more that you could play with. So I really felt that was like that development was there with this game. And I actually generally liked most of the combat like in this game. I thought it was like really responsive, really reactive, apart from the dodging, of course.
Of course.
But I really feel like that they just, if they were to obviously, make the third one, I think if they made a few sort of fine-tuning points that they could really sort of smooth out some of this, particularly sticking on the PS5 now, they could just make a solid PS5 game and just kind of smooth out a lot of this stuff. Just make the climbing a little bit easier. Put some bloody dodging in there that actually works. Like, I don't know. It's like Kratos as well. Kratos, you may as well just put your shield up. Like, because he ain't dodging.
There's no point. There's no point.
He ain't dodging out of the way much. I feel like I had another point on here. That was
just got worked up about dodging.
It was just some of the side quests. I didn't actually not like side quests, but like side activities, I'll call it. Like the races, the arena, the combat challenges, the what they called like the hunting grounds.
Yeah.
I actually quite like all that sort of stuff. I actually think that's kind of cool. It's nice little challenges that you can do like around the world, just to kind of like hone your skills. I'll get into the pits a little bit later because I didn't like them. Because I couldn't get those melee combinations. I swear, they're just the worst thing.
I think, to be fair, I think some of them were genuinely broken. The combat pits at one point, like
I was like, I'm doing it right. I'm doing it right. Like, why is it not working? I had to watch like a slow-mo thing getting done so I could see all the timing, and you had to nail it and I was like, how are you meant to do this in battle? This precise window of like, okay, you hit, you wait, you hit twice, and then you wait again, and then you do a solid strike. And it's like, mate, no, it's not happening.
You're just going to run in and mash them with a spear.
Mashing a button, right? I mean, for Christ's sake, I broke one of my triggers playing this game. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah, I do.
I started streaming, and then the trigger broke, and I had to fix the trigger. And I was like, that's how this... Because I feel like it was the rumble, right? You know, in the game, she does like the hard strike, and you throw the trigger down, and it's like... And it's really resistant. Yeah. Snapped. Yeah. Broke it. So if you play this game, don't have the vibration and the triggers on high, because it will break them.
No. Don't do that.
But what did you think? I've talked enough about the gameplay now. What did you think?
I mean, for the most part, I think I agree with, like I said, most of what you said. I thought the additions to the weapon variety and stuff like that, and in particular, I think the skill tree for me was a big thing. Like, it felt a lot more versatile. You could really hone in on a particular build. Whereas in the first game, I felt like I was just unlocking skills for the sake of doing them. Like, I had the experience, I might as well unlock a skill.
Yeah.
Whereas in this one, it's more like, at least in the beginning, like, until you get like a proper build that you're happy with, you're not just going to start willy-nilly upgrading things.
Remind me, the first game kind of had general skills, right? Like combat, traversal, and like machine stuff or something like that, wasn't it?
It was like 5 or 6 individual just lines that went down, if I'm remembering right. It was something like that. And it was, like you said, combat. I think one was to do with like traps and things. Whereas in Forbidden West, obviously you've got far more choice with the types of skills you want to like focus on. You still got, I think, is it 6 like separate trees? And then each one's got like branching paths.
Yeah, branching paths that go all the way down.
Yeah.
Did you use the Valor things?
So this was something I was going to mention, but I might as well do it now.
Segue
in terms of things we added in, I didn't use them once. Like I thought they were pointless. Honestly, I didn't struggle enough to require them. And other than, I think the only one that I ever properly thought, you know what, I could use this was the invisibility one,
Hmm.
because that just means I can just walk past things and I don't have to engage in the fight. Particularly with like the human enemies, I was just like, just go away, just leave me alone. I'm invisible. I'm getting collectibles. Go
Yeah,
away.
just go away.
Like,
Just go away. Yeah, I didn't really use them much either. Obviously
no,
the we'll get onto the trophies because it requires you to fill out one of the things.
yeah,
And the easiest one to fill out is just like the warrior one, like just kind of
pretty much, yeah.
learn how to smack something around. But you can rejig them around. I think as well. I think you can.
Could you do that at launch?
I
Is that something they've added?
I think it's something they've added. I'm wondering if it was a
Right.
patched in thing where you could move your skills around. You could kind of take them off and move them around if you wanted to
Yeah,
change things. I'm pretty sure they added that in. So it was something
I'm
that's
not
pretty good.
100%
Like,
on that.
yeah, unless there's a way that you can just like go somewhere to go and clear them all and then reassign them.
Yeah,
Whether it's something at the base, you can just do that. Because that's something that was, quite interesting to be able to do. Because you can't really fill out the whole thing. I don't think. I don't think you can do all of them. I think you have to be quite specific as to where you put them.
yeah. I think you definitely do have to be specific, especially like when you're playing through the game.
It's,
I reckon if you 100%ed the game, and because obviously I'm assuming, I think there's a level cap, isn't it?
I
So
think
like
it's
50.
Yeah, that
I'm
was
assuming you can keep gaining experience beyond that. I don't think I ever actually bothered checking. But I'd imagine you can keep unlocking skills beyond like max level.
yeah. I'd imagine so because I mean I stopped playing like once the platinum spoilers for like, the end of it.
Yeah.
So I left a
Yeah.
lot of it kind of just my map is quite patchy. Like
Yeah, same. My map is like really well cleared for like the first like 3 areas, and
yeah,
then the end of
yeah.
it is just like full of stuff that I was just like, nah.
That dawn area and the subsequent
Oh, yeah.
area outside of it, mate. Nothing there, bro. Like it's all clear. But like a lot of
Oh
the other
dear.
stuff was just like, okay, yeah, I'm move
It's
on.
just like I just want the story, and yeah,
Let's crack on. Let's crack on.
absolutely.
But is there anything else on there that you wanted to add on there, Pete?
I think, to be honest, I think we touched on a lot of it, talking about like the mini game and stuff like that. I don't think there's anything else I really need to go into. To be honest, I think you hit the nail on the head for pretty much everything. So, boom. See, it's just we're just like this. We're just
I
so in
know.
sync.
Should we should we move on to visuals and music and let you carry on, Pete?
Go on then. I mean, I have already mentioned this like right at the start. I think this game is stunning. I don't think there's any other word for it. I think the vistas and things like that are just breathtaking. And I know for a fact that this is one of only 2 games that has ever really got me to interact with photo mode. I think it was this
Ooh.
and it was Kena were the only 2 games where I was like, I just need to stop and take pictures for 20 minutes. That was just something I did because I mean, like I said, you stand on the top of a cliff, particularly in that starting area where it's quite open, and you can just see for forever. It feels like, and yeah, I just kept looking at it, just kept stopping and just or like wading through the water and seeing all the ripples and
When she
I
walked
loved
through
it.
the grass and
I
you
loved
could
it.
see her like,
Yeah.
holding her hands out, like
It was just phenomenal.
yeah.
It's making me want to play it again just to go and look at it. Like,
Well, the DLC is coming out, so a good excuse.
Well,
to
that's
get
it.
back in there, or do the extra trophies
oh yeah, do ultra hard, or is it like the?
and New Game Plus. You can do New Game Plus on Ultra. We can do Ultra Hard on New Game Plus.
Well, there you go. That's no problem then. No problem. It's just a 50-hour game. It's fine.
Yeah, I know. Just for a couple of, I think it's bronzes. I want to say.
Oh,
I think
not even a gold.
It's such a troll.
Oh, that's brilliant. I love it. I love it.
I might have to double check, but I feel like that's the case.
Yeah, I think. Oh, that's just hilarious. In terms again, like we talked about locations a little bit earlier on. We talked about Las Vegas, and I mean, spoilers. The light shows are just phenomenal. Like, I was stunned when I first saw it. I kind of just sit there for 5 minutes and just looked at it.
I remember you on my stream. You were like, just wait.
Yeah, just wait a minute.
It's coming. It's coming.
It's coming.
And I was like, whoa, what's coming? You were sitting there just going, oh man, he's gonna freak out.
I was rubbing my hands. I was loving life. Yeah. I was giddy to see it again. I could have just booted up the game and had it next to me and looked at it, but no. Other than that, I think my favorite location in the entire game is it called Plainsong?
Yeah.
It's the one that's like built on top of the satellite dishes.
Yeah, that's right.
That was just incredible. And I think that's one of my favorite things about how Guerrilla build the worlds of Horizon, is taking those real life things and locations and turning them into something completely new. Yeah. Like you were talking about San Francisco, and I mean, if it wasn't for the bridge, would you even really recognize it? Like,
I mean, that's kind of like that's the thing in real life, though, right?
I mean, that is true. That is true.
You get to see these landmarks, like in this form, but yeah.
And it's just phenomenal. Like, for all the faults that we mentioned earlier on with this game, the visuals aren't one of them at all. And I mean, music exists.
It does exist. In preparation for this podcast, I did actually have a little bit of a listen to the OST.
Okay, I probably should have done that.
Apart from Aloy's theme, which is kind of the opening theme that plays when you boot the game up.
Yeah,
it's that opening sequence. I don't remember any of it. I'm listening to the music. I'm like, oh, when was that? But it's music that's atmospheric, right? It's like most of the other music that you kind of get, because there's a lot of talking going on, and boy does she talk.
God, she doesn't shut up.
You don't really hear a lot of the music unless you change the settings out on your PS5 and turn the voice volume down, which you probably recommend that you do. You can have the music a little bit higher up. It's not like a Final Fantasy where it's quite iconic and you can kind of remember the songs and it's quite memorable.
Yeah.
It's a musical score that kind of just changes and plays throughout the game.
And it's the sort of thing where it's always there and it amplifies the entire thing. It sort of lifts it all up.
That's the thing. Obviously, with a lot of the dramatic moments, it would be there, but it's not memorable, if that makes sense. But the moments are still incredibly vivid in my mind. But I don't remember it for the music. It's very much a backing to everything else that's going on. But like you say,
absolutely,
it does amplify it, but it's not. It's
the sort of thing where you would 100% notice the difference if it wasn't there.
Oh yeah.
But you can't necessarily pick it out. Although since we've been talking about this, I have now remembered the theme, and I did absolutely. I binge listened to that constantly when it came out, so I retract my earlier statement that was derogatory about the music because
was it Aloy's theme? Yeah.
It was the one that was like in the very beginning of the game. It sort of recurs throughout the story.
It does. It's her main theme, but it's the one that you would probably remember, like if you're gonna remember anything from it. But I absolutely 100% agree. Like this is. I put it at like Ghost of Tsushima levels of like how the world looks in terms of how beautiful it is. It's just incredible, like how that world put together. I'd argue that it's better because Ghost of Tsushima, to its credit, like does what it does very, very well. But the variety of the land is not massive in terms of the way that the island changes. You have like one little snowy area, like right at the top, but it's very small. The rest of it is very sort of like flat and mountainous and grasslands. Whereas with Horizon, they've crafted this, they've got like, sort of deserts and they've got marshlands, deep forests, they've got mountains, they've got, which is like ice covered, they've got this waterlogged area. They've just got such variety as they go around. And everything looks incredible. And you've got to think, that has got to take some serious work. Because there'll be people working on the snow, there'll be people working on the water, there'll be people working on the wet grass, then the dry grass, and the sand, and how everything works together. It's just outstanding. The NPCs in this game look amazing as what Aloy and the main characters do. You get a lot of games, and you're like, okay, well, the main characters look pretty good, right? But the NPCs or the quest givers and the people that are around in the villages don't look as good.
Yeah.
When you go round, everybody has really good fidelity. Like the lip syncing's really great. The voice acting's incredible. Everything is well acted in this game. I'm not gonna deny that at all. It's one of those that I feel like the performances and the world and the way that it looks, this is the strength of its game. It's 100%, 100%. If you want a beautiful world to go and explore and just lose yourself into, this is really the game for you.
Yeah, because you could literally spend hours just roaming around, seeing what sort of creatures you come across and seeing what sort of little, because obviously the quest dotted about, and just exploring. And like you said, just going from biome to biome and seeing how everything changes and seeing the seasons change almost like right in front of you. It's just breathtaking. It's ludicrous to think that people made this in a computer.
I know.
Like,
and one of the things I feel like if you have this game, one of the things you have to do is just fly from one point to the other. Just fly over the whole lot and just watch the whole thing change underneath you. Like, and the draw distance is insane as well. The fact that you can just see when you're up high enough and you just see straight out in front of you for like literal miles.
Yeah.
Like that is just next level. I get that the draw distance on the PS4 is probably a lot shorter. The PS5,
yeah, I'd imagine so.
The PS5 could obviously has the power to render it pretty quickly in real time like that. But that to me is one of the premier things that you could do in that game. It's just literally just get yourself a little Sunwing and just take yourself on a lovely little cruise across the map.
Spoilers.
Spoilers. She flies.
It's fine.
She flies. She flies. I feel like that's in promotion.
I mean,
is that in promotional?
Yeah, it's in the trailer for the DLC.
It's in the trailer for the DLC. Does that count? It counts.
Yeah, it's fine.
Spoilers. That's the last one we're gonna do. I promise. I promise. I promise. Wonderful stuff. I think that pretty much covers it. So what would you say in terms of a game review then? Let's go back to the scores.
Okay.
Like, where would you put this, Pete? Let's give it out of 100. Let's just stick to the Metacritic.
Right. Put me on the spot here. I don't like giving things numbers. I don't like giving arbitrary scores to stuff.
No, neither do I. And let's face it, no one cares what our number is.
No.
So what does it matter?
Exactly.
You know, it's just a figure, isn't it? You know, but we're going to be doing it. I suppose let's do it out of 10 because we're going to be doing it with a trophy list, so we can give it more of a vague-ish number. Right. Because we're going to do it with the trophy list later in terms of ranking it. So, out of 10.
Out of 10, based purely on the game and not the trophies.
Yes.
I'd probably say it's about an 8.
Yeah. I'm in complete agreement here. I'm like, it's a real solid 8 out of 10. I think if they fixed a few of the issues and just cleaned that up a little bit, I think this is an easy 9 for one of their top titles.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like the visuals can only take it so far, and it's one of the most beautiful game in its lineup. It really is. And the gameplay and the story, I'll say the gameplay's pretty solid, but the story can probably provide too many slow moments. I'll probably say that.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
Yeah.
There's too many bits where it's sort of everything grinds to a halt and you have to go off and do some other stuff for a bit.
I would say that the story is a little lackluster for me, but there we go.
Yeah.
There's lots of stuff to do in that game, so you don't have to.
Oh yeah, you're never going to be bored. There's always something to go and do.
Okay, shall we move on now to the trophy list?
Oh, you know what? Why not? We're 2 trophy-based YouTube channels. Sure, we'll do that.
We'll talk about the list because this is really what we're kind of here for. I'm going to do a little bit of a rundown. You have to mind me, guys, because I do have my little trusty iPad here. So I'm going to be kind of reading a few of my notes with this. So this has 59 trophies in total, 1 platinum, 1 gold, 7 silvers, and 50 bronzes.
That's weighted completely wrong.
You know what? I covered this trophy. It's the only trophies I covered at launch.
Yes, you did.
I did. I covered it because I read out the trophy list and kind of gave my thoughts on it before it was launched out, and had a bit of a strategy to it. But man, when I see one gold trophy in a game that's going to take about 70 hours to platinum, I'm sad.
It's ludicrous. It's insane.
I'm a little bit sad. We'll discuss what they could probably potentially do there, but at first glance, like I was like, oh no, I want at least 2. Do you know what I mean? At least 2.
Yeah.
For a big AAA open world RPG adventure, like give me 2 golds.
And a Sony first party one at that, like.
So the gold is solely for just finishing the main story. So once that golden path is complete, that's your one and only gold trophy. The silvers are a little bit more interesting because silvers are for reaching the highest level 50, which we talked about, which is level cap. And mainly kind of completing out all of the sort of side activities. So you complete all the tallnecks, rebel camps, overriding all the cores, hunting grounds, scanning all the machines, and completing a single skill tree. So those are all our silvers. Now I'll kind of whiz through a lot of these bronzes now. You ready for that? I've tried to group them together as best as I can here to try and like get this done. We do have 10, which are basically story-related trophies. So they're going to ping as you kind of play through the game. There's 2 on the way to the level cap. Okay? Don't ask me when they're out. I think it's like 20 and 40, maybe. I think.
I feel like it might be lower. I feel like one of them's like 10 and... Yeah, maybe something like that.
Maybe? I can't remember. There's 12 for side activities. Great stuff, right? So it's first tallneck, first camp, first core, first hunting ground. Spoilers, 2 flying missions. You have to do a set of salvage contacts, 4 rebel outposts, 3 relic ruins, an arena challenge set, 2 machine strike, which is the game that we talked about. Recover 5 different collectibles.
I mean, it could have been worse.
I know.
It could have been
every
collectible.
We'll talk about them a little bit more in depth in a little bit. Those are like the kind of collectible side of it, all the sort of side area things to do. There's 2 trophies for obtaining like each weapon type and element that you can kind of get. So all of the different things that you can do in terms of weapons. You've got performing combos, stealth kills, tearing components, using the heavy weapons, overriding machines, and I don't want to spoil it, but defeating the enduring, which is
we'll get to that one.
We'll get to that one. So there's a lot of like combat related trophies there, kind of using some of that stuff. The last lot are basically like for like a bunch of like upgradable stuff. So you're kind of upgrading your gear, your pouches, your armor, your equipment. And there's a few bits there in terms of like the upgrades. And the last one is for gliding. I think it's like for a minute straight, right?
Yeah, I can't remember if it's a length of time or like distance.
I think it's a length of time.
I can't remember.
I'm pretty sure
I think
it's a
you're
length
probably
of time.
right.
I think it's like for a minute. You have to just like glide. Just like
because you have to like go to like the top of that peak that separates the world and just jump off, don't you?
Yeah. So there's quite a nice variety there. Like, what were your first impressions, just kind of initially looking at the list, Pete?
Well, I'm going to throw a spanner in the works here because I didn't look at it before I started.
That was going to be one of my questions. Is kind of like, when did you look at this?
To be honest, I think I sort of once I got into the game, I started glancing at it because I was like, I kind of assumed it was going to be similar to Zero Dawn, and I mean, it was. Let's be fair, it was almost identical.
Pretty
in some
much identical
aspects.
to it, yeah.
It was sort of like Spider-Man / Miles Morales kind of deal. So I didn't want to check it because I was, avoiding spoilers as one does, and I mean, it's just a functional trophy list. I was kind of pleased that we didn't have to 100% the game because as much as I love Zero Dawn, and again, this might be kind of skewed because I left it for a while and went back, going to pick up all of those collectibles, especially the flowers, absolutely did my head in. So I
not like
was
that?
very glad that I didn't have to do. I mean, it was just going finding them because obviously I'd already done the entire story. I was just meandering about the world finding collectibles, and I mean, I have mixed feelings about these types of trophies anyway. But yeah, I was kind of glad that we didn't have to do all of that. The only thing I'd say that I wished had been included from the first game was getting gold on all of the hunting grounds
Oh
because you don't
yeah,
have to. You just have to finish
do it
them.
once. You have to do one of
Yeah,
them.
yeah, you have to. Yeah, you have to gold one of them, don't
You
you?
have to
Yeah,
gold one of them, and that's it. You just have to complete
yeah.
the others.
And I that was some of my fondest memories of playing Zero Dawn was the challenge of working out how best to complete these hunting grounds. And it's
Wait until I was
actually
overpowered for them. That was my tactic. That was the last
that's
thing I
fair.
did. That was my
That
platinum
is fair.
trophy on Zero Dawn. That was my platinum trophy. Was finishing one of the hunting ground. I think it was the one. There was like Ravagers and Thunderjaw,
Yeah,
and I feel like one of them was like you had to get the Ravager gun and kill the Thunderjaw with the Ravager gun or something
yeah.
like that.
I do
Yeah,
remember that one. I do
that's
remember
the
that one.
one that I did for the platinum.
I think weirdly enough, I think the hunting ground challenges were my platinum as well. Off the top of my head, I haven't looked at
On this
the
one or
trophies
the
in that.
previous one?
Oh, on the
Zero
previous
Dawn.
one. Yeah. We'll get to what my last trophy for this game is because I was
We're gonna get to it.
absolutely
We're gonna get to
livid.
it. We're gonna get
I
to
was
it.
livid.
We're gonna get to it.
But yeah, I think that was the only thing I'd say that I wished they'd done more with it because, like I said, the challenge of figuring out how to take down these enemies in the time frame and having to work around certain obstacles in the thing. The only one of them that I'm subtly glad I didn't have to gold was the one with the Tremortusk.
Yeah, it's hard, wasn't it?
Yeah, trying to defeat the Tremortusk with its own guns was interesting to say the least.
It was. I remember that one. I remember that one on stream. It took me a few goes, like
Yeah,
to kind
because
of
there's a
like to kind of
few
tackle that.
whatever the Velociraptor ones are called. There was a couple of those Claw Striders. That's it.
Yeah, Claw
There was
Striders.
like two or three of those in the arena at the same time.
Yeah, there's like two or three of them, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, you have to take down this elephant with its own gun, and it's yeah, that one took quite a few tries and
Yeah.
probably battered a couple of controllers in the process. But
Didn't break them like I did then.
no, I didn't break any. I've only broken one DualSense, and that wasn't my fault.
No, I'm sure it wasn't.
Definitely not.
No.
So go on, what did you think? Because obviously you looked at the list beforehand and you made the video about it.
I was really excited because as soon as the list came out, I was all over it. So I covered it in a video, and I just sort of broke it down. It was a very simple video of just me and a camera, just kind of reading a list like this. I was just like, and here's a trophy. But yeah, I like you was like, okay, the collectibles are going to be a little bit simpler. They're not asking for everything. Like when it says like just collect one of each, it was kind of like, okay, cool. That sort of sounds. And it was kind of like the side quest bits as well. It's like do 2 of these or 3 of these or whatever. And it was like, it's not asking you to 100% the map. So kind of it felt like a little bit of the weight was being lifted off of me a little bit. I was like, okay, cool. I could be a little bit more cash with this game. I don't have to like go around each little marker to kind of like clean it up as I make my way slowly through the map, because that's what I started doing. I was like, yeah, I don't need to do this. I'd done most of those collectibles in the first little area. Once you get out of the first bit, I was there like just kind of popping those trophies, like just getting them done. But like, I feel like it was one of those trophy lists that kind of like prompts exploration and kind of teases you. Okay, if you want to do all of these, you can, but you don't have to for the trophy. We'll just kind of start you off, and then you can do it if you want to. You know, it kind of pushes you in the direction of that. I think, like you say, like honestly, like I probably would have liked them to have said like, do all the arena challenges, do all of this. There'll be people watching this stream right now, and they'll be in the comments going, are you being serious? You wanted to add more problems to this game? You want to put more, make this trophy list even longer, right?
The trophy list is fine, people. Stop moaning. It could have done with a bit more sauce to it.
I think so. It felt very Ratchet. Not as bad as Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. No. It wasn't like don't get all the gold bolts because that was scandalous.
Oh, we were fuming about that.
But they probably could have gone like, okay, get 50% of the collectibles or whatever it is that they kind of wanted you to get because they had nothing
as opposed to 5.
Yeah, like 5. Because they had nothing on the like data log stuff. They had nothing to do with that, which I'm quite glad at because you missed them all over the place.
Yeah,
they're blooming terrible. I just forget about them. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll pick it up.
They're literally just everywhere.
Like... move on. But yeah, that was my main gripe. Was only 1 gold. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. There's got to be something here that we can do.
Yeah.
I would have probably put like something like scanning all the machines. It's probably one of the bigger trophies that you could have done. Or put something along the lines of the skill tree. I don't know. Put another gold in there, like if you.
Or like the level cap, like hitting level 50, that could have easily been
one of the bigger ones.
A gold.
Yeah. One of the bigger ones. I would have been like, cool. Just give us an extra gold in there. Like that would have been.
Yeah.
A little bit nicer. It's incredibly weighted. Like once you finish up the main side areas, you kind of get in the silvers. Because like it's. Because I'm trying to remember, a lot of the stuff is on the, because it's bronze trophies for all the main side quests as well. So like all of like Katalo's side thing, and I'm pretty sure there's only, like I say, there's only 7 silvers. Yeah, and it's literally for what I've gone through. So the main side quests that you kind of tackle and go through, they're all bronze. There's nothing there.
That's really disappointing. I did not realize that. Although we're saying this now, and obviously we've been talking about the weightedness of the list. I'm not gonna lie, I don't think I've ever looked at the actual breakdown of like gold, silver, bronze trophies. I just look at the list as a whole. I never really pay much attention to it, and I probably should do. Thinking about it now, I just sort of go, yeah, it's got like 30 trophies, and this is what I have to do. Jobs are good. Like they could be all 30 bronze, and I wouldn't really notice.
I knew the one trophy that would be the problem is scanning all the machines. You have to remember to make sure that you do that. And I know we'll get on to our problems in a minute because I know that we both have problems. But I remember yours. But yeah, I remember my first impression of the list was relatively straightforward. I felt like that was the only trophy that would have caused an issue in terms of making sure that you scan everything. But as long as you remember to do that, it's one of the things to remember to make sure that you do, because I think there's like 1 or 2 missable ones. You kind of make sure that you
I was gonna say the obviously we're not spoiling anything, but there are a couple of machines in the game that do not spawn in the world. So make sure if you're going for it, scan literally everything, especially if it's in a mission.
But yeah, I was generally it felt a little easier than some of the other first-party titles, because you look at a list like sort of God of War and that, which requires 100%, to kind of get done, and even like Zero Dawn was like get 100%, like get everything kind of located up on there. Yeah, so it felt a little bit of a step back in terms of they were like, oh, this world's a little bit too big. We probably shouldn't do 100% because. I don't know if PlayStation step in and like say, no, you need to make the trophy list a bit easier. Like you can't expect everybody to go in there and like do the whole thing. I don't know.
I mean, this is a whole conversation we could have another time about the difficulty of PlayStation first party trophy list now. Even things like Spider-Man 2018, you had to 100% that game. All right, it wasn't anywhere near the scale of...
It's not the scale of this, mate.
Horizon,
no.
But even that was, you need 100%. Like you said, Horizon Zero Dawn was 100%. God of War was 100%.
It just seems a little bit odd that this one wasn't.
Yeah.
I feel like this is one of the only ones that isn't. In terms of major first-party titles, I can't think of really another one that kind of goes, just get a few,
Other than Ratchet.
Other than Ratchet. Do you know what? I generally think it's a typo. I generally think they meant like 25 gold bolts, not 5.
Not 5. Someone at Insomniac's just like...
5 is ridiculous number of gold
Yeah.
bolts. You just pick them up like whenever, and you just get the trophy. And I'm like,
and getting the gold bolts is intrinsic to Ratchet.
Part of Ratchet and Clank, right? You want to get all the gold bolts. It's part of it. I honestly, hand to heart, think that's a mistake.
Do you know what? If it is, and they've rolled with it, then you know what? Fair play. I can't even be angry.
We'll make our list 1 out of 10. Do you know what I mean? We'll make it well easy.
Oh, dearie me.
But yeah,
we've got onto Ratchet and Clank.
Hey, you worked on that video for me, so why not go and check out that video, ladies and gentlemen? You know,
you should do it. I had much less of all of this.
You had a lot less hair then. That was about a year ago. I think we did that.
Jeez, it wasn't it?
About a year ago.
That was insanity.
Yeah, we did that.
And now I look like I live in a mountain, but you know, we move.
So let's. Oh, the last thing that I will say that I did pick out is there's no difficulty related trophy as well, so that's always.
Although saying that,
always a bonus.
In a similar way to Zero Dawn, there is a DLC trophy for.
There is.
I'm pretty sure it's for Ultra Hard, isn't it?
Yeah, they put the Ultra Hard on. It's that tends to be a bit of a trope of first party titles. The 100% completionists have to do it. Like The Last of Us as well has the grounded DLC.
Oh, I'm never doing that.
I'm never doing that.
Never doing that. Not doing permadeath. Nope. Not even a little bit.
Not even gonna try. But like, yeah, so you've got like the 100% trophies that are on there. I'm pretty sure they're bronzes as well. I'm pretty sure it's a bronze trophy for doing it on ultra hard.
Would not surprise me.
Really? For an extra few points.
But it's that 100, isn't it? That's why people.
For people that want it, mate. For people that want it.
I'll do it. You know what? Sorry, why not?
Make it a side project.
Exactly.
Make it a side project. Anyway, we shall talk about our personal experiences or journeys or rides or whatever we want to call this part of the section, our chronicles, as we might say.
There we go.
So
I mean,
I've left it up to you to kind of kick things off here, mate. So what was your general?
You say we talked briefly about this when we were talking about the whole trophy list thing, so I don't really have much more to add in the way I approach the game.
So let me ask you a question then. What difficulty, first of all, did you decide to play this on?
Normal, whatever that was called.
Normal, I think.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's just called like something random, isn't it, to do with the game? Yeah. No, I tend to always stick to normal. Yeah. Even if a game has like a difficulty trophy to it, I'll do normal first. Yeah. And then I'll do a second playthrough and I'll try the harder difficulties like BioShock and things like that. But I'll always try and start on normal just because in my mind, and I'm pretty sure, I think, was it someone from What Culture Gaming I heard on one of the podcasts said something similar, and I was like, you know what, that makes a lot of sense. Normal is obviously what the developers think is the correct balance for the game. It's the one they designed the game for.
It's what they designed for, yeah.
Exactly, and like hard might just be all of the numbers go up, or easy might be all the numbers go down, but nothing really has changed. So that's just my logic behind it. And I just always start off on normal in everything really. But outside of that, I didn't really come up with any sort of plan. Like we were saying, I didn't look at the list. I just went in and.
Were you main questing, or did you kind of like dip in and out of side quests as you go through?
I was 100% clearing every little inch of that map up until a point, like we said. And mainly because I didn't want to have to go back and do it all after the story. I tend to like doing them as I'm going along. Like with God of War, I do literally everything I could at the time as I was going. Ironically, similarly to that, I reached a point where I was like, you know what, I just want to finish the story now. So, as we were saying earlier, there's a point on my map where it just stops being clean and starts being full of stuff. Yeah. Because I just got to there and I was like, should I just finish it? I'll just finish it. But yeah, that's pretty much as much thought as I put into it. I know you'll probably have much more interesting takes on this than I do.
No, I mean, the way that, I mean, look, I'm going to hold my hands up here now. I feel like I need to confess something. Because I played this game like on very easy, and I still like died on certain things. You have to understand something to me, everybody watching, right? I don't play games to kind of be challenged at any point, right? My life is hard mode. So when I sit down and I'm gaming, particularly when I'm streaming as well, and I don't want to be made a fool of by Aloy and her inability to dodge roll out of the way of incoming attacks, is I just want to kind of just get through it. I'm more, the way that I like my games is I like the story elements over the top of like challenging gameplay. So I'd rather kind of like hit all the story beats and kind of explore without too much like issue with like getting into fights. I'd rather just kind of just get past the fight and like do what I want to do. So I don't really want to worry too much about like, oh god, I've got to get through this fight and then I can go get a collectible or go to this location because I need to be here. It's like, oh, okay, a small inconvenience and then let's move on, you know? I want to explore. That's what I like about this game. It's like, I wanted to be able to kind of go about my business without too much issues. So I ended up actually just like turning difficulty like right down. So I had like minimal problems. Like I said, I was streaming and kind of beelining a lot of the main story. So I was a little under-leveled when I got to the last area. I struggled a little bit because I wasn't exactly very high level when I got there. I think I'd only hit about level 30 or something like that. And if I would have done a little bit more of the side quest, then I probably would have been a little bit more leveled up. You know, but you pen on very easy, mate. What's the problem? It's like, mate, I suck at games. Like, what can I tell you?
Like, games should be fun, okay?
I know, right? That's exactly what I keep telling myself. Yeah, I keep telling myself. Like I say, I have not got time to like muck about like dying all the time. That's why I don't play Bloodborne. So I don't play Bloodborne games. I don't play.
Dad's gonna platinum Elden Ring next. You heard it here first.
Mate, when I've got more time on my hands, when my kids finally go to school, when that day comes and I've got a daytime, right? Because all my gaming is done like late at night. Like I have to game until like 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning just to get some serious undisturbed game time in. And I'll sit there with like the brightness turned right down, my headphones in, just like trying to do it. So I managed to kind of get through a lot of the main story and I kind of like crawled my way, like, because I feel like when we did the stream, I died. I had to end the stream because my time had basically expired. And I had to then go back and then do, also knocking the mic, and then I had to then go back and do the boss again the week after to kind of finish it off. So hey, if you want to watch the final stream, then there it is.
Honestly, you should do, because it was just a great time. It was a great time. Probably not for Matt, but just in general.
It was a stressful time. But then I then like tackled into like the sort of side stuff. So I tackled that sort of afterwards, and that's when a lot of the trophies were like popping for me a lot afterwards.
Yeah.
I wasn't really doing a lot of the trophies kind of through the main story. I think some of the combat ones were kind of like coming through, but a lot of the collectibles, I just hadn't been bothered like to do them all at all. So I did some of them in the open air, and I remember doing the salvage, where you have to get the pieces.
Oh, the contract things.
Contract thing. Basically the fetch quest of the game.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Go get this thing. Okay, cool. Go get this other thing. Okay, cool. Go get another thing, and I need one more thing, and then I can make a thing for you. Cool, great.
I mean, to be fair, they did have some of the best like stuff you could buy, like parts and things like that. So it was worth doing. It was worth doing. I mean, maybe.
Sure. I was like, cool. I'll take it, mate. Thanks. I did that very early on because some of that stuff was quite near the beginning. But once the game sort of opened up for me, I was kind of off on my way. But yeah, that's when I kind of did a lot of the main like side areas and the main extra bits that you needed to do, like that. All the hunting grounds, all that stuff just came late game. And I had in my head what I was going to say for the platinum. I don't know if it was a good idea or not. I felt like it was a good idea because it was to do the enduring and it was to take on And it was to take on the like the combat challenges, not combat challenges.
They were kind of. They were like
the pits.
challenge / tutorial type things, weren't they? Like yeah.
Man, they were so hard. Like to get past. The enduring was a piece of cake.
Yeah.
I was like, this work up to this boss, right? Which I assumed would be some sort of like mega boss that was going to be like really going to test your melee combat abilities. Man, I just smacked the person around. And I was like, yay, celebrate everybody, because I did it again. I did it live on stream. It's there. You can go and watch it. It's around. But it felt a little bit anticlimactic for me. I felt like a bigger achievement would have been the Tremor Tusk.
Oh yeah.
I feel like leaving one of the hunting grounds would have been a really bit more climactic finish off the Tremor Tusk with the cannon, and the trophy would sort of soon after that. That would have been pretty cool. But no, I didn't have too many issues with the trophy list. Not too many. Not too many. No. Luckily I had you on my stream, because you quite rightly pointed out that I needed to make sure that I kill a certain enemy. We'll throw the spoiler out there, because it's about halfway through the game. It's only a name of an enemy, but it's one nonetheless.
Yeah.
Go on, share your story.
Right. So, if you guys have played Zero Dawn, you will know of an enemy called a Corruptor, which is sort of like a War of the Worlds looking dude with walking on tripod legs. They look more robot-y than the rest of the creatures in the game, basically.
Yeah.
And in Forbidden West, spoilers, there are 2. These Corruptors are only in a mission, though. You can't get to them outside of the mission. They're not in the open world. They don't appear in the open world at any point. And one of the trophies is for defeating one of each enemy type. And me being me, thinking, I'm going to save the story trophy for the Platinum. I'd done everything else before that last mission. And I was like, you know what? Everything's good. Everything's sorted. And I finished the game, and the Platinum didn't pop. And I went in and checked, and I was like, I cannot figure out for the life of me why this trophy hasn't popped. And I looked down, because the game tracks which machines you've defeated.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's good.
It is good. Yeah. There was one missing from mine, and it was the one that doesn't spawn in the world. So what had happened is, I think one of the NPCs, while I'd been fighting them, had dealt the killing blow.
Yeah.
And therefore it hadn't counted. So what this meant for me was that instead of having this really nice Platinum moment of finishing the game, I had to fight my way through the entirety of the arena, because only in the last set of challenges, on the last challenge of that set, do Corruptors appear.
Wow.
So I had to fight through the entire arena, which isn't needed for a trophy at all.
Nope.
You just need to do the first part. I had to fight through all of it to defeat this one enemy, and I didn't even bother with anything else that was in the arena at the time. I killed this one enemy and then turned the game off because I was that annoyed. I was like, I've just had to...
No New Game Plus either. So you couldn't do the game again.
Exactly. And I just had to fight through the arena, and I was so annoyed by the end of it that I didn't even feel elated that I'd done the Platinum. I was just like, this should have happened hours ago.
It's an extra challenge, Pete. Come on.
Yeah, but some of those arena challenges are a joke. I
wouldn't know.
Because, well. But the whole setup for the arena is is it 3 fights or 4 fights in each section? Like that, yeah. And the first couple are with your own gear, but the third fight, the last fight in each section, which is a boss, is a predetermined loadout. Mm. So you've got to learn on the fly with weapons you don't necessarily use, such as is it the warrior bow that's naff?
Yeah,
yeah. So you've got to deal with all that. So I had to deal with this. In fact, I'm pretty sure, and I'm not ashamed to say this, I'm pretty sure I turned the difficulty down at one point because
Why not, mate?
I just couldn't.
Platinum, mate, at that point,
Yeah, this is what I mean. I was literally just like, I've just done at this point.
Yeah.
Like I was so annoyed, and trust it to be the only machine that doesn't appear anywhere else in the game.
You were on my stream and you were like, you have to kill this enemy, and you're like,
Yes.
Check on the screen. Check,
Yes.
check.
If not, restart the mission.
Yeah, like, make sure. And I was like, no, it's there. Are you sure? Look again.
I was so worried it was going to happen to you as well, and I was just like, I need to make sure that doesn't have to go through this.
I was very appreciative. So yeah, thanks a lot for making sure.
Yeah. So that was my most irritatingly challenging thing about this game. Obviously, you've mentioned briefly what yours is. Would you like to elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, I will. Obviously, I think I've already said about my most. It's not even the most challenging platinum. It was just the most annoying, and it was the enduring. It really was. I actually thought the whole thing was just a bit naff.
Yeah.
I didn't like going into the pits. The learning the combos was just a series of me trying to nail this combination and failing, watching a YouTube video of it being done in slow-mo so I knew the timings of when to do it all. And then by the time you get to the endurance, it's a bit of an underwhelming fight. You're like, okay. It was just a little bit naff. Like, there was nothing really overly difficult that was challenging, really, like, in terms of the way that the game works. I would probably say, like, in terms of like the way the cauldrons kind of work, the cores, the puzzles, kind of, like, get around.
Some of those could be tricky, to navigate through,
and they've got some pretty challenging bosses like inside there as well. Like, there's the whole setup of those. They are designed to be pretty challenging. The hunting grounds, again, the Tremor Tusk one, notably, is a challenging trophy to say the least. But you don't have to. You just have to finish it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just have to finish it, and that is a doable task to say the least. But for me, like that enduring trophy, doing all the pits, I think there's like 4. I think to do.
I think you're right. I think there's like. It's either 4 or 5. I think that they're in like the major sort of settlement areas.
There's 4 or 5 around it that you have to do. You have to get through the pit bosses, and man, like just do it. No, it's just like, it's the worst. It was just the worst thing. I hate it.
Do you know what? As well, I'm pretty sure isn't one of the pit bosses. Thank you. Isn't one of those a duo fight, like a 2-on-1? Thing, or am I imagining that wrong?
I think so, actually.
I feel like it was the last one I did. There was two bosses. One of them is really slow.
Yeah, no, there
really
is.
Quick. Yeah,
there is. Yeah.
That was a pain. That was an absolute pain. I hated that fight. I hated that fight so much.
It's like the God of War one when you get like 2 of them, like they come in the.
All 3 of them.
There's 3 in there. One of them.
Yeah. Oh. I just can't deal.
That's another podcast.
That is another podcast.
That's another podcast. That's coming.
That might be a spicy podcast.
What was your favourite trophy?
Katalo's side quest. Hands down. Literally. We take him to get an arm. It's great.
I know. The whole thing. It's mine too. Yeah. Hands down, right? Pun intended. Oh man, that side quest, it just had weight to it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it really did.
The whole arm's weight to it. It was
a whole arc as well.
Yeah.
Like some of the side quests for the other characters are obviously really good, but this just hit different. Like he goes through such a dramatic change, not only in the main story, but in this side questing, you see so much of his character come through. It was just the best. It absolutely was.
He's just such an incredible addition to it. Like his contribution to the whole arc of the story was just so great to see.
Yeah,
I absolutely loved that trophy. It was just the best one to go after, and it felt so rewarding. Not for me, like, but for him, I was like,
Yeah,
I'm with you, bro. Like, come on.
Yeah,
That was such a great
absolutely.
trophy.
I loved it.
So let's move on then in terms of what we're kind of like our overall sort of like thoughts like of this.
Okay.
Let's talk about. We've talked about. Sorry, I keep touching the mic here. Let's talk about the overall difficulty then. Like once you were kind of like going through it.
Okay.
What was the difficulty like?
I'd say it's easy. I mean, again, this is a conversation we could have another time about the state of Sony first party games, but a lot of them are just getting to the point where obviously some of them have difficulty sliders. Like obviously you can play this on ultra hard, it's probably significantly harder, but even on normal, I'd still probably say it's not no more than a 2 or 3 out of 10, if that. I think I had again a bit of a skewed thing for this because I checked the total playtime on my PS5,
Ooh.
and how accurate this is, I don't know because I've not looked at the actual save file. But the PS5 tells me I played it for 83 hours.
That's quite, mate. I reckon
it's a lot of time.
I reckon about 20 of those was doing that arena.
Probably was, yeah. It probably was. But this was over the span of only 10 days as well, because I absolutely bashed through that game.
You stormed through that game. I mean, I was streaming it once a week for about 2 hours a piece.
Yeah, I literally just hammered through it. I barely did anything else. I didn't watch TV. I just hammered through this game. I wanted to get it done, partially for reviews and things like that. I wanted to try and get the content done. I mean, I was never going to beat them, but a Platinum Trophy is a bit different from just a standard review, isn't it? So
yeah, it's different, isn't it?
Yeah. And I mean, the video did absolutely naff all, so it doesn't really matter. But, you know, it was an experience.
Check it out now, can't you, lot? You can go and check out Pete's Platinum review of it, can't you? Yeah?
Thank you. But yeah, I'd say, because I don't necessarily think of a correlation between time to Platinum and difficulty. Like, I'd say something like Dragon Quest 11. Obviously, that Platinum's about 120 hours long, maybe. Yeah. And barring, like, the final secret super boss that's in every JRPG ever, aside from that, it's easy.
Yeah.
It's not hard, it's just time-consuming. Yeah. But
this could have been longer, though. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, it could have been. It could have been.
It could have been a lot longer. Because I think mine was around 55 hours by the time I got round to doing it. So I think generally about 50 to 60 hours, maybe a bit more. It depends on what else you're doing. If you're doing a lot of moving around.
I'd say I probably went a bit above and beyond what was needed for the Platinum in terms of side content. Like I said, especially in the beginning. I reckon you could definitely 50 to 60 hours is probably like the sweet spot for this one.
You don't have to do every side quest. You get a lot of side quests, and I'm like, oh, I don't need to do that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Moving on.
Exactly. Like, just ignore it.
Yeah, I was like, it just sat in my log like for ages. Like, just like, yeah, I'm not doing that.
Oh dear.
That was part of my playthrough. It was just like I'd be getting these quests, but like, is that one? Is that one? No. Okay, cool.
No.
Right.
No.
Oh, is that one? All right, remember that one. That's what I need to do. Yep. Yeah, because that was what I was doing. I was just looking up the quests that I needed, and that was pretty much my Platinum strategy, was just going through
Which is fair. Like, you can't really, argue with that.
Do anything unnecessary. It's like once I popped the relics, and once I popped like getting the little collectibles, I was like, cool, I ain't got to do them anymore. That's it, done.
I've got my 5. That's all that matters. That's all that matters. I've got one of each. Done. I did the races and like 2 of them. Yep, done. Yeah.
Let's move on.
Yeah. But that's the thing. One thing that I know that I did was, I can't remember which collectible it was, but one of the collectibles was linked to Vegas, I'm pretty sure. If you brought the characters that are in Vegas, these collectibles that you found in the world, they'd put on different light shows.
Oh. Is it not the drones? Is it?
I don't think it's the.
No.
Is it the drones? No, it's not the drones. The drones is for in the base.
I can't think now.
No, I can't think off the top of my head, but I'm sure there was like items you could find in the world, like collectibles, and you took them to these guys. And
probably something I didn't need to do.
Do you know what? It might not have even been included in the Get 5. It might not have been included in that. So
it might not have been. I can remember most of the things. You had to get the black boxes, the drones.
Yeah.
You had to do the Is it not like the different projection? You had to kind of like get the
viewing.
Yeah, the viewing thing. You have to kind of go into a viewer thing. You have to move around and line it all up and.
Was it those?
Whatever that is. That was a collectible.
Yeah, that was a collectible.
It was a collectible. I'm trying to think what the collectibles were now. The 5.
I can't off the top of my head. I remember the drones, but the drones were for like inside your base. They'd put a projection on the walls around there.
Okay.
The black boxes were to take to the main tribal area.
Okay.
Because they were in like a museum, I think.
Oh yes, they were.
Yeah.
But they had the exhibits, didn't they?
Yeah, I could be completely wrong. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know if there was something to do with Vegas. I might have just stood there and looked at the pretty lights for like 20 hours. Who knows?
You probably did, yeah.
I probably did.
They're so good. You just stand there and just look at them, don't you?
Exactly.
I know.
Plus, we've got to account for like the 10 hours of photo mode that I did and all that sort of thing. So
yeah, I didn't do too much photo mode. I ain't got time for photo mode. I ain't got time for that.
Just want to play the game.
Yeah, I'll do a screen grab of something, but like that's about it. Yeah, I think for me in terms of difficulty, I think there's a few challenging moments. I think definitely some of the obscure dungeons can have some issues in terms of where you need to go, where you need to climb. It's not always clear. You can find yourself a little bit lost sometimes and thinking, oh god, where have I got to go? So there's a few bits there definitely that I think that would make things a bit more challenging. There's definitely some tough machines, some tough bosses that could definitely sort of stump you as you make your way through. Like I mentioned before, like those sort of cores. They've got some tough fights in there, like at the end. Like, there's some tough enemies that you've got to get through before you kind of finish it off. And some of those challenges, like I said, we keep mentioning the legendary Tremor Tusk, but it's a hard challenge, And
it is.
There's a few things in there that I think that might take a little bit of difficulty, but I think the difficulty is probably not necessarily the length of the collectibles, but like the length is definitely a challenging aspect you've got to take into effect. It's a long game. It's a big world. There's a lot to do. So I would say it's about a 3 out of 10. I think it's a solid difficulty level. I think there's a little bit of challenge in there, but there's nothing that's going to really hinder too much progress beyond a small YouTube search that might help you out with some specific bit that you might need to kind of get through.
Exactly, and like you were saying, obviously any game with difficulty like modes is going to vary wildly, I'd imagine. But even from just like this perspective, like we're saying of playing on normal or playing on easy, like it's really there's nothing too difficult about going for it.
Unless you're like me on very easy, the final boss kind of had me like,
Oh, yeah. We'll not get into the final boss. We'll just gloss over that.
Not too much. But yeah, the final boss did cause me a few issues, to say the least. I had to do it twice.
There were some moments where Plat Dad lost his cool.
I mean, you'll notice that I don't really swear on camera. And Pete's been very nice not swearing as well.
Trying my best.
Yeah. So I try my best not to swear, but I was close.
Yeah.
I was close. I was like, I keep going back to it. It's her dodging. Like,
honestly, it was like you were getting stun locked. It's like you were dodging, and as you were getting back up, you were getting hit again, and it was just it was a whole thing.
She would just kind of she just kind of make her way back to her feet. I was like, mate, get up. Like, you're meant to be the saviour of the world, and you're taking a day and an age to get to your feet. Like, just get up.
Oh, you love it.
You're like, Kratos, when he's in like God mode, he's like, poof. you know, he's straight up. You know what I mean? Like, you know, just sort it out.
Oh, oh dear. Oh
But
dear.
I'm gonna jump into like some fun.
Oh,
How much fun that we had like doing the trophy list here.
okay.
I'm gonna say straight off the bat that I didn't have as much fun as I did playing Zero Dawn. I think Zero Dawn, in terms of the game and the trophies, blended very well together. They fit very beautifully, and I feel like that enhanced the experience for me. Like, that trophy list did enough to try and boost up my levels of enjoyment of the game, and I had a better time with that. For some reason, I didn't feel the same way. I felt like there's almost a disconnect, I think, a little bit between... I don't know if it's just the size of the map, and I felt like that had a hindrance on the trophies a little bit. I think that's where I'm kind of coming at, in terms of... I don't feel like I could have had as much fun with this game as I wanted to. Like...
Yeah.
I had a good time. I had a good time, but I felt like the blend was just a little bit better in the first game than it was in this game. I just felt like there was something a little bit off that just detracted me slightly, I think.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from with that.
I think what I'm getting at sometimes is just like, sometimes there's a huge traversal just to get somewhere. I know there's a fast travel, right? And I know that I did use that. But, you know, you've got to get to a campfire. Then you have to go to the campfire to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And it was very sort of like, I felt it was very far away, disjointed. I was like, oh, God, it's going to take me like 20 minutes to bloody get there. Like, and I was like, I'm bored now. That's where I'm kind of getting at. It's kind of like, oh, man, like, or you'd get like a check mark, and it'd be like in the middle of nowhere, and you'd be like, oh, man, like, I'll go all the way over there. Like, you having
like,
a laugh.
I have no campfires near that. I have to walk.
That. Yeah, I've not explored that area yet. I need to, like, you know, venture out. So I think for me, like, in terms of the enjoyment of the trophies, I feel like the size of the map kind of almost attracted me slightly. I felt like it was almost too big. If that makes any kind of sense on there. So
no, it definitely does. It definitely makes sense.
For me, I feel like this was more like I had a 7 out of 10 experience. I felt like it was a really good time. I felt it was a really good experience. I had a solid experience with it, but it didn't wow me in any way. That the trophy list didn't do anything to enhance that.
That's fair.
Yeah?
That's fair. Yeah. I'd say
Katalo can't save it, you know, just all on his own.
For the most part, he's only got one arm anyway. He can't lift that much. So
he can't carry Forbidden West on his one arm.
No, he needs Aloy to help prop it up.
Yeah, he does, yeah. What did you think overall?
I'd say again, a lot of what you said is probably rings true for me as well. I'd definitely put Zero Dawn above this in terms of, like you said, fun and just pure enjoyment. I think as well for me, one of the factors in that is the originality of Zero Dawn.
Yeah.
Where obviously that's not something you can replicate necessarily in a sequel, because it is inherently going to follow on and copy what came before it in some regard. But for me, it didn't do enough to set itself apart, and it was just that little bit that didn't quite scratch the itch, like we were saying earlier. However, I'd still probably give it an 8. I'd still probably put it on that upper end, just because I did still really enjoy it. I might not have had as much fun as I did in the previous game, but I wouldn't have put 83 hours into it over 10 days if I wasn't enjoying it.
That's the thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't have spent that much time, that much concentrated time in that world if I wasn't having fun.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's not much more I need to say about it anyway. I mean,
I don't know if it's because I was streaming it. Maybe it was such a broken. It was a very broken up experience because I was streaming it. So it was a very different way of like playing the game. But I look back at Ghost of Tsushima, because I did Ghost of Tsushima literally just before it, and I would rate that platinum enjoyment higher than I would do with Forbidden West.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe we're different on that one.
I might have put them probably on a similar
Similar
level.
scale.
Yeah, I wouldn't have necessarily said I enjoyed one on more than the other.
Okay. I definitely it's not by much. I'm not trying to put Forbidden
No,
West
yeah,
down at
yeah,
all.
yeah,
For me, I felt like there was a slight disconnect there that kind of it just lowered it a couple of notches down. It's a high 7. Like
yeah.
it's a high 7. Like I had a good time with it. For me, Zero Dawn is like, oh, like Ghost of Tsushima, like they were enjoyable. They were like 8s. Like, but for me, like,
Yeah,
it was just a little bit of a scale down on there for you.
that's fair enough. That is fair enough.
Wonderful. But no other closing thoughts, Pete, before we kind of break out of here.
Oh, I mean, I recommend it.
Yeah.
If that's something that we're doing in this video, I
Sure.
recommend you play it. I
I
recommend you
definitely
go for
say
the
that.
platinum.
It's a very good thing. I would say
And
recommend it. Yeah.
yeah, like we were saying, you don't have to 100% the game. The option is there if you want to. And touching on something I did say in my review, that is one thing that I kind of do like is you can platinum this game how you want to. And I think that level of freedom is something that should be applauded.
I'd
If I'm
say
being
the same
honest,
as well. It's a very customizable platinum, isn't it?
yeah,
You can really
you,
play around with the difficulty. You could play around with like the amount that you do. Because
yeah,
you can go above and beyond and kind of do a lot more in terms of 100% in the map. And there's a lot of side quests there that I didn't really touch. You probably did a lot more of
exactly,
those than I did. And there's definitely there's so much to enjoy in this game. And I would definitely recommend, for me, like if you're going to go out and tackle a lot of trophies, the side quest stuff is by far the most enjoyable thing that you're going to do, like in this game. Is
yeah,
go out and explore, and it's a world that begs for exploration, and I think that's its biggest strength. The world is beautiful. We've covered this,
yeah,
and it's got so much depth to the whole area that you're covering, from the people that you speak to the terrain, the way the weather and everything just interact. It feels alive.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I get it, like more so than what Zero Dawn was, because it was relatively barren apart from a few settlements here or there.
Yeah, there was a lot of open space just in between everything.
Yeah. Whereas obviously with the power of the PS5, what they've developed now, they can kind of put more into it. They've got more things going on up and around there, and it's a very high recommend. I highly recommend this game. Obviously, we've covered everything that we can cover inside this video, so hopefully there's enough there to kind of persuade people, and you're gonna have a good time with this platinum. And I think
you absolutely are.
And I think what we're saying really is like if you've played Zero Dawn, you're gonna have a very similar experience from what it is.
There's not going to be anything that you would surprise you about this platinum.
No, nothing at all. All right, team. Well, there you have it. There is our first kind of deep dive chronicles of our Platinum Trophy, which today was all about Horizon Forbidden West. But Pete, before we get out of here, is there anything you want to plug?
Sure, why not? As I may have mentioned at the start, I am currently platinuming my way through the alphabet. I have done the first 2 letters, those being Assassin's Creed Origins and Batman Arkham Asylum. So if you want to, make sure to head over to my channel and check those out. I am going to be starting the next letter right after we film this. So this is going to be interesting. Platinum's going to get a sneak peek at what that is. But yeah, other than that, just show some love to this beautiful man right here. Just all of the love. He's the best dude. You'll love it, honestly. Can't go wrong. Can't get better.
We just go over to P-Tier Games. I'll leave obviously your link and that down in the description, Pete, so people will be able to find you. I'll leave a link to your Twitter as well. So people will be able to come and chat to us. Don't forget as well, Pete and we're a member of the Platpad Discord server as well. It's currently a little bit of a lockdown situation. Like
Yeah.
John, who runs, he's really the guy who runs it. We're just like,
Absolutely. We're just two idiots that sit in the background.
Idiots that sit in the background and really kind of do nothing, really. He's probably watching this podcast and just like, oh, those guys.
He's like, how can they even say they're part of this?
I know. We had a bit of a spoiler leak coming in, and he's sort of closed it. So it's through recommendation. So if you come and chat to us and you want to become a part of the Plat Pad, then it's through recommendation. So you have to kind of go through one of us.
Yeah.
And then we'll be able to kind of like help you out in it. It's just basically, it's a trophy hunting community. We're incredibly helpful, and it's such a lovely, like, relaxed place to go and chill.
Absolutely.
It's always nice. I always pop in. I'm a bit more of a lurker than I am, an active part of the community. But I always go in there and have a look at what people are chatting about. And if I'm around for more than 5 minutes, I've got kids screaming in my ear, I might send a few messages, because I send a message and I'm worried that I'm gonna have to go do something and I can't reply to that person, so it just ends up just going, oh, I can't get engaged in this, but it's always really good. But it's always a great time, and people are helping each other, boosting. I think you said earlier you've got somebody in the Discord like helping you out.
Exactly.
It's a really lovely community of people that are able to kind of like help each other, support each other, and it's just a lovely place to go and hang out, really, if you like your trophies. And if Twitter does combust at any point, then there's always
a place to be.
There's always a place to be. But guys, obviously, if you are new to the channel, this is going to be hopefully a regularity. We're not going to be doing these too often, Pete, because obviously we've both got busy lives. But the idea is to potentially do like one a month to kind of like meet together. I've got plenty of platinums that we need to talk about, Pete. This was due, about 9 months ago. So I've got some catching up to do. You know what I mean?
All right. Okay. We can do this.
I've got some stuff to do. So there's plenty of stuff in the pipeline that we want to do. I want to try and do Guardians of the Galaxy. I want to do Final Fantasy X. I want to do Final Fantasy VII Remake once we get round to finishing that one off. There's a few other platinums. I probably might want to do one on Stray. What do you think about that?
Ooh, that would be a good shout.
That'd be a good shout. That's got stories. I tell you, I've got stories for Stray. So we've got stuff to talk about with that one. So if you like the format, if you're kind of here, you've made it to the end of the video, please do drop down your feedback. I'd really love to hear what you guys make and what you guys think of this one. It's very important to sort of myself, Pete, that we can kind of develop this a little bit more and try and give it a little bit more kind of interactive feedback. If you're interested in jumping on, if you're a content creator, I will obviously screen and chat to you and see if you want to come down. But I've got a few people in mind I want to bring in. But if you are interested or you've got ideas of people that would be wanting to come on, then do, again, drop us a message in the comments down below. You can obviously like the video, share, subscribe it. Always do all that good stuff. You can check me out over on Twitter. It's @thisplatinum. You can go and see me over there. But for now, the last thing I'll plug, is my streams. I mentioned this earlier. Yes, you've got to come and check out the streams. It's always a fun time. It's right here on the channel. You'll see me every Friday at 8 PM UK time. We are currently working through Final Fantasy VII Remake on PS5. We're doing the hard mode playthrough, which has been solid. Only only one death so far. Only one. That was the Hell House. He did have me, but I pasted him on my second attempt.
Good.
I absolutely pasted him. But yeah, that's everything from me, guys. So yeah, it's goodbye from myself and goodbye from you, Pete. Say goodbye.
Goodbye.
And take care, everyone. And remember to keep hunting those trophies.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.